Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to December. Took long enough to get here. Please, for the first timers, we always ask you to please turn off your cell phones. And does everybody who needs hearing enhancement have it? Everybody? Should I say it louder? Okay, so I recognize a few people as first timers. Stick your hands up, please. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for coming. If you'd like to be added to our, if you're not already, if you'd like to be added to our email or postcard reminder list, please see anybody with a badge and give us your name, and we'll get that taken care of promptly. Well, December 1941 was kind of a significant month, wasn't it? It changed the lives of many American families, including my own. I was 15 days old, but that's not the point. As you remember, FDR called it a day that will live for infamy. He said that on December 8th because the Japanese had invaded us on December 7th. And on December 8th, the U.S. declared war on Japan. Germany and Italy, seizing the opportunity, suspecting that we were weakened, immediately declared war on the United States on December 11th. So we said, that sounds like a good idea. We declared war on them, and off it went. Of course, they didn't like us anyway because we've been supplying stuff through the Lend-Lease program to our allies in Europe to use against the Germans and the Italians, so that's the way it went. So that was the beginning of a long slog, as they say. I'd like to recognize all of our veterans here. World War II, first, raise your hands. Wonderful. And any other veterans since World War II. We're all in this together. What's nice is to see so many people who aren't veterans who are here just out of general interest. And as we try, particularly for you newcomers, if you come again, bring somebody young. It's very imperative that we keep this going. They don't teach it in schools anymore, and it's just too important to forget. So please consider bringing somebody young. There's one. How old? How old?
9.
Welcome. On the subject of recognizing vets, our friend Bev Barber, as you know, you've heard in previous evenings, she runs a program down in Lebanon that represents Pearl Harbor, and her program will be on December 8th. For those of you who don't remember or don't know about it, she can tell you about it. It's still time to get to go at the chapel at the Lebanon VA Medical Center, and the 1940s era dance at the Lebanon Expo. Rich Burton has a little something to add to that. Would you, Rich, please come?
Okay, I'd like Bev to come on down front and the rest of her committee either to stand or come on down front. And for the past 11 years, Bev and her committee have run a program down at the Lebanon VA honoring Pearl Harbor survivors. And this Sunday on December the 8th at 1:30 at the Lebanon VA Building 18. I think it's a chapel that they're going to have a ceremony, and they're going to have several Pearl Harbor survivors. And then they're going to adjourn from there and go down to the Lebanon Expo Center for 4:30 to have refreshments and a 40s dance. And music is to be provided by the Lebanon Big Swing Band. So there are flyers, you can see me, there are flyers in the back. But thanks to the generosity of you all sitting here, and we had just enough money to cover this from Bill Jackson's Cancun fund. There's a little bit left over. We'd like to make a presentation to Bev and her committee from the Capital Area World War II Roundtable. So, because I have the check on top, the Capital Area World War II Roundtable would like to present a check for $250 to the World War II Homefront guys and gals for the good work that you've done these many several years. Then we have a plaque I want to read to you before I leave. Then a very, very nice plaque, and see Bev or wherever the plaque ends up. But it says, Capital Area World War II Roundtable Honors Bev Barb and the World War II Homefront Guys and Gals. This plaque is given by the World War II Roundtable in recognition of 10 years of distinguished service and outstanding commitment in honoring Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans at Pearl Harbor. They have a Remember program held annually at the Lebanon VA Medical Center. This plaque given today, December 5, 2013. So on behalf from Kirk Gibson, because Kirk's a lot prettier than me.
I can't add anything to that, Bev, but terrific job you guys do, and thank you so much. Thanks for being a good supporter of the Roundtable as well.
Sorry, folks. Sorry, I get really emotional about this stuff, as a lot of you know. This is just such an honor to be acknowledged for something that's so near and dear to all of our hearts and that we're so passionate about. And we can't even imagine not doing this. I mean, the people up here, there's so many others that I want to thank. But we can't take credit for starting this program. It was started by World War II Navy veteran James Rudisell about 15, 16 years ago. And my mom and I started attending the service. It was then just a service in the chapel at the VA Medical Center. And Mom and I started attending about 13 years ago. Sorry. And 11 years ago, we took it to the next level. We approached James and told him that we wanted to get involved and maybe have a luncheon for the veterans. And he very graciously accepted my idea. And his Legion, he'd been a lifetime member of the Jonestown Legion, embraced me into their group. And the first year we had the entire program, we had the ceremony in the chapel, and then we had the USO dinner dance at the Jonestown Legion. And the Ladies Auxiliary did all the work, decorating the food and everything. But that was a little too far away, so the following year, we had the entire program at the VA. That wasn't the most ideal scenario, so 9 years ago, we were able to get the Lebanon Expo Center very graciously offered us the use of their facility, and we've had the use of their kitchen and the entire facility for the entire weekend, and so we've been able to grow this program. 9 That's when we started having the OSO dinner dance there. We've been very blessed over these past 11 years to have the support of all of these great organizations and the area businesses, service organizations that supported us financially and helping us to make this happen. And I've had a wonderful team of people that I could not do this without, and I see not all of them are up here right now. You should be, you know who you are, you should be coming up here and joining us. But I want to thank a few people. As I said, James Rudisell started this all, former two Navy veteran James Rudisell. My mom, Dolores Proudfoot, who unfortunately is no longer with us, she passed in February. I couldn't have done this. She and I were a team on this effort, and long before I even knew any of these people and they were involved. And she helped me from start to finish, so many countless hours pulling this all together. My brother David Proudfoot, Dave and Marilyn Baylor, who were James Rudisell's best friends, and they were with me right from the beginning. And Pat Whistler, who's no longer with us, who ran the reception for quite a few years until Dave and his family took it over. But the team that I have now have been so supportive and so involved in this, and so committed. Dave Newcomer and his wife Christina, their sons Devin, Tyler, and Jonathan, his parents Angela and Richard Newcomer, Patty Cody and her daughters Mary and Katie, Chris Gabers, Steve Shaw, Ed Zimmerman, Steve and Mary Goss, Eileen and Dave Ewing and their swing dancers, Jim and Mimi Stauffer, Susan Duskin, Dan Mastros, Keith and Michelle Camilli, Dan Kraling, Chris and Harry Dialectos, Deb Stout, Jim Rogers, Tom Fosnot, and Bill Kimmick. And I'm sure there are people that I probably overlooked, and if I have, I apologize. But like I said, this program doesn't happen by itself. It happens with a great team, and I want to thank all of them, and thank all of you for your support. Thank you, and please come on Sunday.
Thanks, Bev. All right, we'll start the January meeting now. A real quick one about Bev Vischer stuff. Jerry Figgins has something. Jerry Figgins has been a long time coming to here, and he has a short 30-second announcement to make.
It's all done? Yes. Okay. I wrote a booklet and got it published. I just want to share the experience with you because you who are speakers here can also become publishers. You get the disc from Dan, who's done there with the camera, and then you key it into your computer in some word processing scheme, and you get it printed out in PDF format, and you send it by PDF format to the publisher, which is Create Space. Create Space is a division of Amazon.com, and you get it published for free. I looked at getting things published before, and it was thousands of dollars, and I got my booklet published for free. And once it's published and your book is published, then you can buy copies at printing cost for your grandkids. One of them says, "Grandpa, what you do in the service, you just hand them a booklet." And it's also available for World War II buffs who like to read about your experiences. It also is on Amazon.com and Create Space, and it's like for sale. Okay, I just want to mention that, a way to get your story out so everybody else knows about it. Thank you.
Print on demand.
I forgot to tell you, it's called Print on Demand. It used to be, you want to get something published, and give your price and print 1,000 copies, and you got a room full of books, and you had to sell them. Well, now you get your book published, and it's in the computer, and none are printed. When John buys one, they print one. When Bill buys one, they print another. So they print them as they need them. That's print on demand. That's the new technology that makes this all possible.
Thanks, Jerry. And speaking of printing, we have a special guest tonight, Jim Crutchland. There you are. Jim Crutchland is the gentleman who brought the magazines, World War II magazine over. He's been trying to attend here for several months, but often has deadlines about this time of the month and can't do it. He and his wife Heidi are both children of World War II vets, and they're passionate about preserving the history to the point they've poured their life savings into the magazine. I'd like to have him give you a couple of words about it, and he'll probably say something about that.
Hi, everybody. My wife, Heidi, I want to make sure she came up with me too. She's the better part here. But we grew up in this area, and we worked for another publishing company for many years. But ultimately, we were motivated to start America in World War II magazine. My dad was a 9th U.S. Army Air Forces aircraft mechanic and occasional aircrew guy in Europe. And Heidi's dad was a boy who was too young to join, and it drove him crazy. But so he had a lifelong fascination with World War II and all the big boys in his neighborhood who went off to war. And and some of them came back. But at any rate, our magazine is about the American experience in the war. And we like to say we're about the war, the home front, and the people. And the emphasis is on the human stories. We're in Barnes & Noble stores throughout America. We're a nationally circulated magazine. And we also have digital editions on every kind of possible electronic gizmo you can think of. But we have a combination of narratives about the war and about battles. We also have a lot of first-person accounts. And this is where I'm always eager to receive first-person accounts from people. I can't go do them all myself. So, I can have a big line outside my office of people waiting to be interviewed. I can't do it, but we all can. I mean, you have relatives. It's not insurmountable to sit down and get someone to tell you their story and send it to us. We're right here in the Harrisburg area. We're in the Colonial Park area. We worked in our house for about 8 years, and now we're in an office out in Colonial Park. And right now, we're working with this woman who's kneeling on the floor shooting pictures of us, Laura, because we're doing our very first tour. We're gonna go out there and actually try to go out where the rubber meets the road. But we're not going to Europe or Asia. Our first step is going to be to go right here in the United States to the two of the best World War II museums in the world, and they are the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, which we all heard of, but also the National Museum of the Pacific War, which is sort of like a hidden treasure. It's in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is a weird, wonderful little town. It's like an Old West, cowboy town. It's completely German, and it's where Admiral Nimitz was born. And so this museum is fabulous. I mean, even the people at Pearl Harbor will grudgingly acknowledge that, that's the best Pacific War museum in the world. But they have the mini sub that was in the Pearl Harbor attack that got captured. They also have a hatch from the Arizona and a bunch of artifacts from people who were aboard it. They have stuff from the Japanese attackers and all kind of things from the Pacific War. So, but anyway, we're going to go on this trip. I'm going to be the host with Heidi because things go better that way. Everybody will like us better if she's there. But it'll be fun, and we're going to do this it's going to be sort of like a rolling World War II conference, and we're hoping that it'll be a really fun time. And it's going to be in May 2014, and she's the brains of the outfit, so she's the one you need to talk to. But Heidi, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I just wanted to thank all the veterans in the audience and your family members and friends who are, we all really appreciate what you've done to serve our country. And everybody keeping the memory alive, because that's part of the reason we went into publishing American World War II, because it's important to keep the stories alive and share the history. And we appreciate everything everyone does for that. But this tour is going to be great. It's going to be fun, and you get a chance, if you can talk some of your friends into going with you, or family members, and you want to share the history, it'll be nice. Laura's got it paced really nicely. We'll spend enough time so you get a chance to enjoy the museums, but also enjoy some of the flavor of New Orleans, some of the flavor of Texas. College Station, Texas, which is going to have some interesting stuff. We'll have World War II movies. It's going to be a nice time. It's going to be well paced. So if you're thinking about it, it's on your bucket list, this would be a good opportunity to go and have fun and share the memories.
I think the secret to what the tour is, though, is what Jim and Heidi bring to it. Some really neat behind-the-scenes experiences, which they've been feeding to me, and I'm just pasting it together. So, and some really neat speakers out of the University of New Orleans and with the USS Arizona and Pearl Harbor Survivors Association in Texas.
One last thing is, I threw a bunch of magazines out there. If you didn't get one, ask some of the other kids to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's the end of the crash commercial messages. We got a couple. Great piece of news. We've been talking about it for months and months and months now, and our website has become a reality. Rick McCann, where are you, Rick? Has, wherever he is, back there, has put it together, and it is cap area, www, .org. Roundtable. Yeah, roundtable.org, and you'll see more about that. I'm sure it'll be on every piece of literature that we put out or email. But anyway, if you can contribute to it in any way, please do. We will start. It's just starting to build. We're going to put the names of all the past speakers on, the upcoming speakers, and whatever else, and we'll link it into some other things. But at least it's started. It's been a long time. Big reminder. Remember, we do have a helmet committee. We'll be at the door as you leave. Please visit them. We don't charge, as you know, but we will collect. Last month's attendant was, I believe, 155. Very good. And did anybody not receive an email reminder or postcard who wants one? If so, contact Charlie Lloyd or any of us with a badge on. We'll get it to him.
Just fill out a little piece of paper and give it to us. They're back
Yeah.
on the table.
Yeah, on the table. Fill them out.
See somebody with a
Please
badge.
do. Please do. Okay. Next month's speaker will be a man named Carol Smith, a United States Marine Corps vet with the 2nd Marine Division, who served in several, let's call them island excursions. I'm sure he'll be very interested about the Pacific. And in February we have a double header. We have a pilot from the 490th Bomber Squadron, and a gentleman named Max Grill, who was a German soldier who served on the Russian front. Didn't they all? But he was wounded 8 times, so I'm sure he's got some interesting things to talk about. And we have speakers lined up through May. We can certainly use your suggestions, or if any of you would do like Louis Dalmaso did, come up and offer your services. He came and spoke to me, several months ago, saying he thinks it's time that he spoke, and here he is sitting here with the aid of his daughter Becky. So you probably read about it. From a 19-year-old on a horse-drawn artillery unit to a mechanic on a B-10 and B-25 bombers to being a top gunner on a B-25. He probably had a great view of the world. Survived nearly 2 years of captivity, including a trip to Stalag 17B and the Lansdorf Death March during the horrific winter of 1945. Thank you for coming here, and we're looking forward to hearing your story. The stage is yours.
My name's Becky, and Lou is my dad, and I'm just here to offer him some moral support. He was born in 1919, the son of Austrian immigrants, and that's an important fact to know, as later on when he talks to you about what happened. He grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania, exploring the valleys and hills and caves, and those wilderness skills that he learned for fun as a child help him survive as an adult. So you'll have to please excuse me if I don't use the proper military jargon. I'm not a military person, I'm just a daughter. So if I misspeak and call somebody his boss or whatever, you'll have to excuse me. So let me introduce my dad, the bravest man I know. Dad, in 1938, as a spunky 19-year-old, you enlisted in the Army. Why don't you tell them about being in the Army and what you did first?
Well, I had a hard time enlisting. My dad was one that had a garden, chickens, a lot of extra stuff around the house, and they always needed some help around there. And I told asked him if I could get down, bum a ride down to Pittsburgh. I lived up about 80 miles north of Pittsburgh. If I could bum a ride down there and enlist in the Army. No going, he said. I'll need you here. Well, I kind of kept after him. I finally kept after him. And finally he said, how do you want to get down there? And I said, I already got a ride. The guy that had a milk dairy in Franklin made trips down to Pittsburgh. And I get a ride with him. He can leave me off down there, and then I'll find some way to find the post office down there to enlist. So he says, finally he said, okay, go ahead. He said, I'm tired of hearing you yap about it. So I finally come to that time that I got a ride down, took a ride down to Pittsburgh, and I told him I was going, and I went down there. He left me off down there in Pittsburgh. So I asked some people about where the post office was there. And finally I found it. I had to ride a bus a couple blocks, 4 or 5 blocks or more to find it. But I finally found it and I enlisted. And I thought maybe I'd probably sign up and enlist and I'd go back home. But no. When I enlisted, they had me sign up. I was in.
Well, did you pick the horse-drawn artillery, or did they pick that for you?
They picked that for me.
Okay, because I know you're not a horseman. What'd you think about having a horse?
Well, I didn't know there was going to be horses in this outfit. Anyways, they signed me up for something, and I took a bus and rode me someplace. And I went out to this field, or base, more or less. And there was I noticed there was quite a few horses around. There's corrals and horses. Yeah, they said, yeah. I asked the guy, he said, yeah, this is a horse-drawn field, actually. I said, you mean this tell me they're still driving all around with horses? He said, hell yes. He said, there's a lot of them dragging around with horses. And I said, okay. Well, I was always a little bit leery of horses. One time when I was talking to a guy, and he had a nice horse there, and I was patting it there, and I run my hand down his back. And I noticed he kept picking up that back leg like this. And he picked it up like that, and pretty soon he got it up there in front of my butt. Whack! And he gave me one right there. So I always was leery of horses. When I pet them, I'd stay up with their front leg.
Well, we have some nice pictures here of you in the horse-drawn artillery with your horse partner. So I'm sure everybody will enjoy looking at those. Well, I know you were in the horse-drawn artillery for about 3 years. How did you ever get from there into a B-25?
Well, that was another one. That outfit I had to sign up for 3 years. And I was in there for, I don't know, a year and a half. And the bulletin board, up on the bulletin board, they started a new base out in Colorado, Air Force Base. And I lived in Denver, Colorado. So I thought, well, boy, I'm going to sign up for that. So me and this 2 other guys signed up for it in this same outfit I was in. Boy, sure they signed up for it, and the first sergeant found out. By the way, that first sergeant was me. He was really a mean. I think we're off. Anyway, he was mean. When he found out everything, I signed up. Well, of course, he picked on me. He was about this much higher than me. He stood there and he looked down my face. Why, you dried up little rat. He said, what do you think you're going to do with you in the Air Force? You don't even know nothing about any airplanes. Well, that was pretty true. They don't want no little dried up rats. He kept calling me a dried up little rat. He said, they want the dried up little rats on them airplanes. And I kept taking it, and I took it, and I figured, well, I'll let that go. I'll tell you what kind of a guy he was. It wasn't just about, I suppose, 3 or 4 months before I left the artillery field. That was horse-drawn field artillery. Left why I was out on, we had to go out every morning for inspection. That one, I was only, I was 18, 19, something. Had a heavy beard. You could hardly see it. Well, I just never mind shaving half the time because it was just hair. It wasn't a beard, it was just hair. So I did shave this one morning, and went out there and stood up for inspection. And the captain went around, looked at everybody, looked. Boy, I noticed he kept looking at me pretty long. I thought, oh, good God. So he went on by and went on and checked everybody else. And then he left. And the first sergeant come around there, and he walked right down in front of me. He looked down at my face. He said, you little. He said, you little. He didn't like me at all. And I didn't like him a bit. He said, you're going on stable duty for a week. He says, you show up with a beard. And I said, well, it's just a little bit. Shut up, he said. So I went down, I cleaned stables for a week and groomed horses. And I went around the wheelbarrow with a shovel and a rake and raked up stuff out in the corral in a wheelbarrow, hauled it in, dumped it for a week. Anyways, I finally, he said that when he found out I signed up for the transfer to get in the Air Force, that's when he told me that they wouldn't want me. Well, boy, when that come through, me and this other kid, we was just tickled pink. And we finally got our discharge, or I don't know, some kind of a discharge from that outfit to go into another outfit. And we thought, well, how are we going to get out to Denver? That was where it was opened up. It was the Bowery Field in Denver was opening up. They were just building it. And they needed some guys there. So I went out there, and we finally got going. We couldn't figure out how we was going to get out there. Well, I said, I got a little bit of money. I said, I got $13 for a bus ticket, and the bus ticket was $15. I said, I'll see if I can go home and get a couple more bucks. He said, well, I don't have very much either. This other guy said, well, I don't have any money. I said, well, he kept scrounging around. Finally, we got 3 bus tickets for us. And we got on the bus, and it took us 4 days to get to Denver on the bus. And I thought, boy, oh boy, oh boy. I thought we were never going to get there. What happened?
Nothing. I was just going to say, once you got to Denver, I know that you had worked as a mechanic, and then you went to California as an instructor at the plant for B-25. So because you were an instructor and just a mechanic, how in the world did you get to North Africa? What took you to North Africa and got you into the top turret?
Well, I get out to California. There's on B-25s out there. and they needed an instructor. And they thought that I might make a good instructor. So they was going to send me to the B-25 school out in California. I was going to stay in a hotel and eat meals in a restaurant, sleep in a hotel, then pick me up in a car, take me to wherever I was going to go, wherever I wanted to go. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be pretty nice. But then they changed their mind. They changed their mind, they said, well, we'll just check you out here. We got a guy here who'll tell you a little bit about that. And then we'll take you out of here by bus. So I thought, well, that'll be all right. And I went along with him. I thought, well, now, I don't know. I said, what about that job I had out there? I was gonna go to the B-25 factory and learn more about the planes and be an instructor. Oh, he said, well, that just kind of went by the wayside. And I said, what about staying at that hotel and eating out all the time? They said, that went by the wayside too. So I was back in there, and they sent me where was it they sent me to? Colorado. They finally sent me to Colorado, Denver, where they said they needed some people out there to start it, because they just opened up a new base. They just almost finished a new runway. They were cementing these airstrips and entranceway for the planes to come into the hangars. And that's a lot of job there, a lot of cement.
I'll tell you what, why don't we skip ahead a little bit to getting to North Africa on the boat? Because we have a whole lot that I think these folks want to hear after
All right.
that. I don't mean to cut you off on
No,
that.
that's all right. I thought, well, now, then the war started, and they were looking for crews for airplanes. B-25 is pretty popular then. Then they was going to take us, fly our plane over in the squadron. Well, I thought, well, that'd be good. I'm a assistant crew chief. I'll go with the airplane. No.
That changed too, huh?
That changed too, yeah. I had to go over in a boat, and it only took me 8 days to go over in a boat, and them guys flew over in 8 hours. And I finally got to Africa. Me and this other guy, I would kept one guy alive. Honestly, the poor guy was sick. As soon as he got on the boat, he was sick. He got up in a bunk, that's where he stayed till we got to Africa. I kept taking, the only thing he could eat was fruit. And everywhere I could get an apple or an orange, I'd take it to him. And he said, just let me alone. He said, I want to die. I said, you can't die. If you die, you got to throw you overboard, the sharks will eat you. Anyway.
And when you got to Africa, here you are as a mechanic. How did you get to be a gunner?
Well, I got to Africa, and I thought, well, I'll get there they took us into Casablanca, and they took us out to a nice barracks where they kept horses. Cement, in the wintertime, cement floors, no straw. I don't know where the hell they put the straw, but they had the straw someplace, but they didn't give us any. So we had to sleep on the cement floor. And I was there for, I think, about 4 or 5 days and nights. Finally, they said they were going to move our group into Algeria. Well, all right, we took off. And I was trying to get in with my group of airplane so I could fly instead of going by boat and by truck and everything else. So I ended up there in Algeria, and I thought that my buddy, my friend was Leonard, and I was his assistant. And Leonard was one of Doolittle's crew that bombed Tokyo. So he was a pretty popular guy, and he was a nice guy. I knew him out in Denver before he became a nice guy. I mean, before he, but anyways, we got over there and they got us into the barracks there at Casablanca. And we just there for a little while, and then they said they're going to take us by train over into Algeria, someplace to a base. Well, the train wasn't a train, it was boxcars. And them little boxcars, they hauled horses and stuff around it. No windows. They kept the doors shut, no windows. They had them little windows with screens on, about this high, about that long, in the corners of the room to let a little air in and let a little air out. So we couldn't get out of that goddamn things. They kept clicking us shut. And we kept bellowing and telling them to get some water. Well, they didn't bother getting us any. So
Oh, wait, that was after you were a prisoner. We'll get to that part. We'll get to that part when you were in the box.
all right, okay.
Why don't you tell them how you came to be a top gunner? What happened? It was a pretty tragic event for someone else.
It was. Like I say, I was an assistant to Leonard, and he was a top gunner on this B-25 crew. And the Germans pulled a raid on our airfield, dropping incendiaries and people bombs. What do you call them? I forget what they are. It's the bombs to bomb troops with and stuff. They come through there, and there was a low-level bomb in there. And the bombs were hitting ground pretty close. And Leonard headed for of course, as soon as we got there, we had to dig us a trench, so we could jump in case of an air raid. We jumped in that trench, and this bomb fired right into it. And they killed him instantly. And oh boy, I felt so bad. I wanted to call his wife and back home and tell her, but then I thought, I'll wait and talk to her later. But he was, I thought, well, now maybe I'll be Doolittle's crew chief. Well, Doolittle come around and look around to see where his crew chief was killed. He just came down to the airfield and looked around, see how things were, and what happened. And he walked around, he walked right past me and over to where the bomb hit and stuff. And he found a hand laying there, just a hand. And he picked it up and looked at it, and he just dropped it and kept on walking around looking. Pretty soon he came back, and I thought, well, maybe he'll say, you want me to be your crew chief. He walked right past, as though I wasn't even there. Kept right on going. And I never did hear from him. I never did hear from him about me being on this crew or anything. So that ended that deal. And then I just started working on the planes. I was a mechanic on the planes, and they didn't need anybody to fly any, do anything. I had full crews that come over and groups. And this one group was scattered right around where we were. So they sent me in to help take care of the engines and stuff on this one plane. And then finally they come in there, and this guy come in, that one plane come in there, this gunner got killed. There was just one piece of flak come through the tree and took him in the back of the head, and he was killed instantly. And I thought, well, I helped take him out. That's the second time that I had to touch a dead person, which didn't make me feel too good. I thought, well, Jesus, they might even want me to go on this plane. But no, hell no. They didn't want me on that. They didn't take me on there. The crew took the plane and they grouped and they flew away. I didn't know what they were going to do. So we finally got on the boxcars and we sent us go over towards Tunisia. And we got over to, was going to be based in Algeria. That's right near Tunisia.
Is that when the lieutenant came and took you out for a ride to see if you could be the top gunner?
They didn't assign me to any gunner or anything, any bombing crew. But then this one plane come in but the gunner was hurt. So he was short of a person on his crew. And finally he came down and asked where Dalmaso was. And I said, right here. And he said, go out and check out a chute. We're going for a ride. So I said, all right. So I went and checked out a chute. Took off. He said, I put on the earphones. And he said, we're going to go over this one area. And there's a ditch there with some bunches of grass. And they're just like a ball. And he said, we're going to go over that and I'll put you in a position where you see about shooting them. He said, can you load them guns? And I said, yeah. He said, well, load them up. So I filled the guns full of bullets, put another clip out there ready to put in. And he took off. We fly along here pretty soon. I want you to take a look at this first before you do any shooting. So he came down to there and he said, I'll tip the plane up so you can take a good look at it. Christ, he tipped the plane up like that and it looked like, I thought he was going to roll it clear over. He took a picture up like that and I could see that thing and I kept looking to see if it was going to fall down there. And I said, yeah, I see him. He said, okay, I'll go down and turn around and come back and I'll tip it up and you shoot at him, see if you can hit him. So he went down and turned. Boy, he must have been a fighter pilot or something before or something. The way he flipped that old B-25 around. Then we come back up through there and he tipped it up there and I had the guns all loaded and everything. I give this one bush about 8 shots. Like that. And then them old guns are right here by your ears, so you can hear it pretty good. But you have them earphones on anyways, helps keep the noise away. And I hit the bush, and it said, I'm going to come back around to see if you can hit that other bush. And he come back around, so I whacked that thing. What I should have done was shoot about 3-4 feet away from it. I missed it. But no, I had to shoot and punch him over the head. He said, well, he said, that's pretty good. He said, all right, he said, you can do it. And he said, I'll have you on my crew. Oh boy. I went over there hoping that I could just kind of sit and look around without going someplace where somebody could shoot you. But no, every time I turned around, I was up there where somebody was shooting at me.
So that was your training to be a top gunner, was going up in a plane and shooting at an island?
Yeah, that was it. That's the only time I had to learn anything.
Okay.
But I always knew how to run the guns anyway.
Well, on your fifth mission, you said that when you were bombing Sardinia was when you were shot down.
Yeah.
And when that was happening, I know that you had told us about how it was a little difficult because you couldn't wear a parachute when you were in the gunner position. So when the plane was going down, how did you get out of the plane?
Well, I had a backpack. I couldn't use a seat back like we usually use in the planes. The one you sit on. Then you're all buttoned up and everything. So when you bailed out, all I had to do was rip the cord. But I had to get this, decided I couldn't use that, so I had to use this backpack. It's on your, it's hooked right on your back, and then everything's out front here, and you pull the ripcord. And that's what I had to wear to go on that one bomber.
And when you got out of the plane, did you have your chute on properly when you jumped out? Or I guess when you
not
were...
really. I didn't know we had to bail out until this other gunner, this bottom gunner, come back and his eyes were about to be round. And he said, the plane was like this. And I thought, well, hell, he's just flying along, and I was used to that. He said, we gotta. I said, what? Bail out, he said. I said, come on. He said, the pilot told us to bail out. And I said, well, he didn't tell me. Here's my damn uniform wasn't even locked up. So I didn't have no connection with the pilot. And I just thought, well, I'll hook it up. And then I thought, hell no, I ain't gonna hook it up. He went out the door. And I thought, God, there's a door about this square to jump out. I don't know how fast we were going, but it was easy to get in when you're crawling up in it. But I thought, jump out there and your chute was hanging on your booty. And
Got it?
And we was going back and what was I doing? Where was I? Jumping
You
out?
were getting ready to jump out.
Oh yeah. I was getting ready to jump out, and he jumped out. And I looked out and I saw where he went. And I thought, holy God, that looked easy. But then I looked at the door again, it was about the square. About that big. And I knew it was going about 250 miles an hour because it was on a bend like that going. I thought we were hitting, we were going down, but I couldn't talk to the pilot when I got my stuff was all unhooked. Everything seemed to go wrong. So I said, about the only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can get out of this thing. And I looked up to see if I could see the pilot and the co-pilot. And usually from my position back here, I can see their shoulder or maybe the edge of their hat. And I looked up there and I didn't see anything. And I stretched my neck up pretty good, and I didn't see anything. And I figured they must have been going out. And then I ain't gonna stay in this plane by myself. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here some way. And then, like I say, the plane was up there. And I finally figured I better get out. And I didn't know whether to go first, feet first, or dive again. I said, I'm gonna go feet first. So I just put my arms like this and I jumped out, put my feet down through there. Of course, a wedge stream kicked me up, and I went down through there, hit my chin on here, knocked me out. When I walked up, I was laying at the foot of an Italian officer on the ground. I don't remember of ever coming down, and I thought, thank you. Because God must have sent an angel down to pull my ripcord. Because I don't remember doing it.
Well, when you came to and the Italian officer saw you, they took you to Camp 59 in Italy.
Yeah.
What was your first impression when you went to the camp?
Oh.
What did the wall look like?
Oh, Jesus, that was horrible. When I was going to that, they would push me into that that camp, that prison camp. And I looked at that wall, it was about this wide, and about 10 feet high. It had a cement curb on top of it, which wasn't too bad. And had a fence post about this big, popped down along through there, and had 2 strands of barbed wire fence going down through there. And I thought, well, that's all right. But what I didn't like was what I saw in the cement. They had pieces of glass sticking up, like you bust a bottle and you're taking the bottom pieces sticking up through. So there was pieces of glass sticking up all through that cement. And I thought, my God, I don't know what I did to deserve this. That just bothered me for a long time to think that anybody would fix a place like that for a prisoner of war, for a convicted killer, okay, but my God. That was where the way it was. That's where we had to stay, in that prison camp. And I was in there till Mussolini caused all that fuss. When he caused all that fuss, why,
How did you know that something was going on? Was there someone outside the fence that was alerting you?
ladies, thank you, ladies. There's some ladies outside up on the outside of our camp, beyond the wall, anyways. And they lived up on this hill, like, and they would wave to us every now and then, and they kept hollering at me, and I could hear them saying something about something to eat. And I didn't know what they meant. And then they said they had some bread, and they wanted to throw some bread, but the guards wouldn't let them come down close enough to the wall so they could throw the bread into us. So they said, they hollered and said, maybe tonight. So that night, they must have come down. They must have come down close to the wall or down close to them somewhere, and threw the bread in, and we found it there on the ground the next morning, which was pretty good.
Well, what else did they throw over the wall when all this was going on with Mussolini?
Well, this one lady kept showing us a little short shovel. Boy, that just looked like a thicket to dig a ditch, dig a hole under the wall. So this with Mussolini and stuff, we went on for a couple of days, so things were kind of off base there. The guards let us get over to the wall sometimes, and then some guards wouldn't let you get near the wall. They just threatened to shoot you, which they probably couldn't, with no threat to them at all. But they finally this woman finally was showing us a shovel, and she said, kept motioning about she wanted to throw it in. So she did. She was down there one night and threw that shovel over the wall. We heard it clattering, but we couldn't walk because if we went outside the barracks at night, the damn guards would shoot us. So we waited till next morning. We went around and found the shovel. And that come in handy. Because boy, after when Mussolini and that was all that business was starting, the guards was getting kind of fussy. And there was every now and then you'd hear sporadic bunch of shots down by the gate to this prison camp. And of course we didn't know what was going on. We couldn't leave our barracks, our barracks, in case we were afraid we was going to get shot. So finally this woman, she was, I wish I could have got out to see her and thank her, but she got out there, was waving her arms, and finally she showed me this little short shovel. And boy, that night's when we heard it clattering on the wall or on the bottom next to the barracks.
So, is that what you used to tunnel out of there during all the confusion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every night we took a blanket and kind of made it I had them fixed up on a couple poles and kind of worked it out to the wall and just kind of made it out there kind of easy like. And then I just left it there at night. And we left it there at night, and then we'd keep our eye on the garden post. And they didn't seem to mind the damn thing there. And we could slip out of our barracks, get behind that, and get over to the wall. We get over there with this little shovel, and you've never seen dirt fly like that. Well, we got a hole dug about that wide, and we got it down about this deep. And finally found the bottom of the damn wall, and we kind of had to keep deeper. And this took, took us a couple, 3 days or 3 nights to get this done. And we had to work pretty fast, because we knew as soon as they found out, well, they'd take everything away from us.
And that was after you were in there about 6 months.
Yeah.
So now you're escaped from there. What'd you do as soon as you got out?
Well, that's what this other kid asked me. He said, what are we going to do when you get out? I said, I know what the hell I'm going to do. I said, if you want to go with me, all right, you stick with me. But I'm going to head for the highest spot and the highest hill country and the woods. And they're in the woods. And I said, oh, I don't want to be down the valleys. That's where all the roads were and most of the houses. And up on the side of the hills was usually the farmers, and they had fields and that, and then the woods. So we finally get in there and we started working to get the hole dug there, and we had to dig fast. And we dug this hole out out from under that night, and we had that kind of a sheet. There was a piece of blanket there stuck up there, and the guards didn't seem to notice anything, or they didn't care to, or something, I don't know.
Well, once you got out, wasn't it kind of obvious that you were in military uniforms? Wouldn't people spot you?
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
Right away, I went to different houses. I'd go to houses to ask them for a drink or something, a piece of bread or anything. And I'd ask them if they had some clothes, some old clothes they had, and I'll change them for these nice army clothes. I said, look, I'm not showing how nice they were. Of course, they were army clothes. And I had a jacket on, and I had that one. Finally, I found a woman that had some old clothes, and she said, see what they were like. I just held the pants up to me, and they beat you to come to the floor, and that was good enough for me. And I didn't care what the hell the coat looked like. But me and this other guy, we changed, gave him our army clothes, and we took his old clothes, put them on, got back through underneath there, back underneath there, back in our barracks, grabbed whatever stuff we wanted or we liked, and we wanted, and we had to sack them up. I don't mind what the hell we put them in. Some kind of a sack. It was a sack or something. What we wanted of our own stuff. And we went out and under that late that night. Went out through that hole. And got out there and slipped up real easy past where the lights were shining. As soon as we got into the woods, it was raining. And we didn't care. It was raining, and we got into where the woods started. I said, come on. I kept saying, come on. He said, what do you know? He said, how do you know where to go? And I said, I just want to get the hell out of here right now. And then I wanted to get up high on the hill, because down, like I said, down the valleys where the roads and most of the houses were. So we went out through there, we went up into the woods. Of course, we were getting wet. And we kept going, we found out, we knew them all as soon as they found out our hole. Then they was going to do a lot of commotion down there, and they was going to do a lot of looking around. So we got away from that prison camp as far as we could, and we ran as much as we could, and then we'd stop and breathe. And we'd suck in there, and then we'd go some more. And he says, I don't know whether I can go any further. I says, you better if you want to go with me. And he said, I don't know where to go. I said, don't worry, we're going to get up as high as we can, away from the roads and the houses mostly, in the woods. And we got up there and we finally fell down in this one little bunch of brush. There's a bunch of little trees growing up there, and we was, I suppose, but from here to the wall and that bench there, I said that about that wide, and there was a bunch of little trees. And I said, when we get to them, I said, I just noticed them ahead of us, and we could tell. Whenever the lightning struck by, you could see something. But it kept drizzling rain, but we were soaking wet anyway. I said, when we got up there, I said, I'm going to lay down. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I got to rest. So I went up there and I laid down. And we laid down there and just let the rain beat us. And we lay there, and we lay there. Finally, I think we fell asleep. We finally woke up. It was almost daylight already. We must have slept a couple hours. Anyways, we decided to get up there and we started moving again. We wanted to get out someplace and get in someplace to hide. So we found a place to hide. There was a little bit of thicker stuff. And I knew them well as soon as when they found out some of the guys were gone in the hole under the wall, there'd be a lot of commotion. So we got away from there as far as we could. And we got up higher on the mountain and or on the hills. And we got out there, and that's where we stayed that day. We didn't go anywhere. He said, what are we going to do? He said, what are we going to do for something to eat? I said, well, when we get time, we'll go and ask some of these people if they have any bread or anything. I said, or anything. I said, as long as we get something to eat, something to drink. So finally, when it got daylight, we kind of looked around at our situation and looked and seen that we were up in a pretty good spot. So we kind of worked our way up to a house that was on the side of the hill and asked them if they had any extra food, bread, or anything. No, they didn't. Finally, she said, yeah, we got some. So she gave us a little bit of bread and a little bit of water. She gave us a bottle of water. I don't know what the hell kind of water bottle it was in, but didn't make any difference if it was water. And we found this patch of woods that we're going to just buckle up in because we knew that one was going to be out after looking for us, and we didn't want to make any commotion anywhere. And that's where we stayed. But we got up quite a ways away from the camp before we decided to sit down.
Well, I know that you said that you had a couple run-ins with close calls with Germans before you were recaptured because you were on the run for 2 months.
Yeah.
Someone turned you in apparently because there was a bounty on the prisoners.
Well, the Germans, there was quite a few Italians got loose. Americans got out of the camps because the Americans kept telling the Italians that they were to be friends of ours. I don't know, they kept talking about being friends and everything. They said, you help those prisoners. I said, if they get out, if you can, give them something to eat or something to drink. And I think some of the Italians, they were pretty damn nice to us. They gave us some bread and something to drink, some water to drink. And we got up to a place where we asked them, they had a little barn there, and they had, mules or something down underneath, and up above where they had some hay. And we asked them if we could sleep in there. And they were a little bit leery at first. They said if they get caught, the Germans catch them, they'll burn their house down. Well, we went, which was a little bit ahead of time, but we went through a little town one time. In the meantime, I changed all my GI clothes for civilian clothes. They weren't very good, and they weren't too good at fitting, but they were civilian anyway. But we went in this one town, and this other kid, he kept worrying, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to have to just play it by ear. I said, we don't know what we're going to be doing. I said, we got to stay out of sight as much as we can and pretend that we're Italians. And we went to this one place. We wanted to get another shirt or something, pair of pants, and some other shoes. And we went over to here, and this one Italian kept telling us, he said, you better be careful. He says, there's Germans here. And he said, they even said that they wanted the Italians to turn the American prisoners in, that they find them here if they know where they're at. And then this one Italian fellow told us, he said, you better move out of here someplace else, into another part of the town or in another part of the country, or in somewhere, maybe up in the woods if you can, because the Germans said they got a bounty on you now. So they were supposedly giving the Italians money for every prisoner they turned in. So for some reason they wanted us prisoners back in. I didn't ever know why, but I had an idea that maybe at the end of the war, when they started swapping prisoners, they didn't have enough to swap them for their prisoners. I don't know. But
Well, after the Italian turned you in, how did you end up in Stalag 17? How did you get there? Because somebody did turn you in and they recaptured you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, we got caught again.
And how did they transport you to Stalag 17?
In a truck. They put us in a truck, back into the truck, a closed over truck with canvas over it. And they took us up that's the Stalag 17.
But first you went on the train. First you were in the boxcars.
Oh God, yeah.
And the train.
Yeah,
they were about 7 days, I think you said.
Yeah, they put us in these cattle cars. And I tell you, they had the windows about this high, about that long, in the corner of the thing that was the air. But when we kept hollering for them to give us some water, but they wouldn't pay no attention to it. And so, when it started raining, why, we saw the water dripping past guys' little windows. So this one guy had a letter he had from his home or from his girlfriend, and he made it into a V like that. He stuck it out through there, boy, he brought it in, and the water was gone. Their mouths were just watering. Because we knew we was going to maybe get a little drink. And somehow one of the other guys had what the hell was it? He had some kind of a cup, the top of something, and he carries it around in his pocket. And he kept carrying water like that, and then pass it around, and we'd just take one little sip of it, and then pass it around, and that's where we got some water.
And when you were on the train, you said it was a coal-powered train, and I know they were still trying to bomb the trains.
Well, we knew when the bombers were coming down looking for that train, because every time they did before it happened, evidently the people would call up and tell them the bombers were coming over, so the trains would run into a tunnel. Coal-fired. Boy, you can tell that was coal-fired too. When you get in there and that damn thing was pooping up black, dirty, stinking smoke, and pretty soon all you could smell was that stinking smoke. And that was really hard to take. We'd try to sniff a while and then we'd all lay on the floor. And then pretty soon we had all that oxygen used up. Then all we had is what the stupid stinking smoke was. But they kept us in there for quite a long time. And we kept, every time we'd stop, I would holler out the door and we wanted water. But I never paid no attention.
Well, that was in November of 1943, and you were at Stalag 17 until May of 1945. When you were in May of 1945, what happened that you left that camp?
Well, that when Mussolini was causing that.
Well, no, that was it's Camp 59, at Stalag 17 in Austria.
Oh,
When they started you marching out of there.
oh, yeah, that's right. You heard of the Danube River over in Austria? Isn't that beautiful? It's just a darn muddy old creek or river. Because we marched down over that son of a gun for I don't know how many days. And not march, we just plodded.
And this was after you had been a prisoner for about 14 months or so.
Yeah, yeah.
And now they're asking you to march, and I think you said about 18 days you marched.
Yeah, we kept walking along the road that was along the edge of the Danube. And we walked, oh God, I forget how far we walked.
Hundreds of miles.
It was quite a long time. But, well, like I say, we kept trying to get those guards to get us some water, but they didn't bother doing that. But it's really something when you think about it, you never think about being out of water. You just take a drink of water and that's, that's the water. But you be out of water for one day, not too bad. 2 days, a little bit more. 3 days, you're really gasping. You're really gasping for water. And you just about do anything for a drink of water.
Well, after you were marching for a while, all of a sudden they left you in a grove of trees. And then what happened?
Well, that's where we had they took us in there. See, the Russians were moving in, and the Americans were coming in from the east. The Russians were coming in from the west. And the Russians wanted to capture all the Americans they could, for they used it to bargain with after the war. I imagine that's what, I don't know what the hell they want us for anyways. The Russians were moving in from the west, and the Americans were going from the east. So we started marching to the west toward the Americans, and they wanted us to march to the Russians because they were closer. No, forget that. We marched. I don't know how many days. Did I tell you?
You said about 18 days.
Yeah.
It was a couple hundred miles.
It was quite a long trip, and it's a long trip without anything to drink or eat, for a long time.
So when you were camped in this grove of trees and you had, you got some smoky fires going, and then who appeared? Who appeared to save the day?
Well, we got they took us at the end of this walk, and a bunch of big trees, just kind of a little grove of them, and told us to make yourself as comfortable as possible. Yeah, comfortable, all right. Anyways, we went in there and we just broke down all kind of bushes we could to make some kind of a shelter. And then we took some of us took our blanket, one blanket we had in the prison camp. We hauled that around with us, which came in handy because that made a kind of a tent for us to sleep underneath. So you had two guys and had one blanket over top and one on the floor. Then you could crawl in there and sleep a little bit without getting wet or not too wet. But you get wet all right, but you wouldn't get too wet. that's about the only thing you can do is try to make a little bit of shelter so you can rest. When you rest, if you don't have a good place to rest, you ain't gonna get a rest. So we had to try to make a place where we could lay down, stretch out, maybe nap a little bit. But that didn't happen too much. But we did get some rest anyways. And it wasn't long till they said that the Russians were getting a little bit closer to us, so we had to push on out, and we went out to where was this, at that grove of trees was that?
I don't know exactly where that was, but I know that's where the Americans found.
That's what we did. When we got to this grove of trees, why, they said that we should make a camp there, and the Americans was working their way towards us, and they got to us before the Russians did. The Russians wanted to get us so they could have us to bargain to the Americans after the war. I don't know what the hell it was.
Well, those Americans were part of Patton's army, so that was a pretty good group to come and get you.
Boy, I'll tell you, when I saw that one American officer, I just about died. I cried. I wanted to get down and give him a kiss.
Well, I think we need to wrap it up a little bit, but I just want to get one more story about after you were rescued and when they took you to Paris. What was your final trip on a plane that was a pretty close call? And then we'll have to finish up for tonight.
When they finally got us, the Americans got us, they took us to an airfield. And said there's gonna fly us to over the other end of France so you get the boat to go home. So we said, oh yeah, that'd be nice. So we piled up a bunch of us in this old C-57 or 37, or this cargo plane anyway, with the wind that had windows. There are not many windows in this one. But we just didn't care what the hell it was. We just piled all in there and sat on the floor, and he took off. And pretty soon he came on the loudspeaker and he said, there's a bunch of your buddies down there, and he flew over a prison camp, and here was the Americans had a German prison camp right down there. And all we could do was make faces at them and swear at them. And hope that they'd never get nothing to eat. But they kept flying all over, and he said, oh, we said, we're going to give the Eiffel Tower a little salute. So we went up to the Eiffel Tower, and they banged that plane around, went around that thing twice like that, and man, that just tickled the air out of us. I went in there, and we went, and they said, while we were out flying around, they said, well, we'll go down the Seine River. Boy, I didn't know what he meant by that. But he went down the Seine River about this high off the water, just going to ski lake on that airplane. And pretty soon I felt him jerking up a little bit. Then he went back down, boy, there was a cable across. And he saw too late to go over, so he ducked under. Of course, the tail hit. Boy, that made a racket. And it ripped all of the rubber on there used for de-icing on the plane. That rubber they have on the leading edge of the tail and the leading edge of the wing. Ripped that off. Tore that cable down out of there. And we just about had our rendezvous right there with God. I really thought we was going to get it that time.
Well, I think that's all we have time for tonight. I know there's a lot more. Maybe we'll come back another time and you can tell some more. Perhaps I'll need you another time to fill in some of the blanks on this. So.
fighting off or leaving, so I guess that tells us a great story. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for listening. And I just wanted to know, we're always for 2 days and 2 months. And I hope you enjoyed this evening.
Thank you. We normally do a Q&A session, but it's running a little bit late. I hope you will come back, because you covered a lot of ground in your few years, and we saw the highlights of it tonight. Well, one question that we always ask is, what did you do after the war? How did you get from there to here? What was your career?
I got a job in the civil service, and I was a mechanic on planes at Patterson Airfield, or Patterson Field, after the war. And that's where I was for quite a while, and I really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, well, that's where I was, and then after I was there for a while, and then I went back home. I lived in Pennsylvania, and I went back home after that. But I really enjoyed being a free man again. I was really enjoying that. So I hope you enjoyed listening to us and what we're doing and everything. And maybe I'll be back again sometime or again for another talk.
Come up and stage pictures and ask questions up there if you wish.
I can't remember what I'm going to say or whatever.
He didn't have any trouble with that.
Made it back.
Oh, yeah, he was wonderful. When he came up, I don't know how many months ago when he came up. And he didn't have a high voice. Has he always had a high voice? Or
I think it's just the way that he talks.
yeah, well, maybe the cold stroke or something.
But I mean, just for him to describe, I mean, he didn't even describe anything about it. I mean, where this is going,
Shoes were
he had the same shoes, and he burned a hole in it when he was at one of the fires, and so it was always full of snow. Excuse me.
Sure. It's just unbelievable. I understand. Why you have all the gas
He is. Well, he's one of your good guys.
But this spoon was from the POW camp. These are dog tags from Install 17.
Oh, look at them there. Yeah, this is a spoon he had in Stalag 17. It's the only thing that he had.
Excellent presentation. Never heard one like that.
Well, there's so much more. I mean, we sit out on it. He lives with me now. And we sit out on the sun porch. And many of these stories, I didn't know about the Italian camp until just in September. And there's actually a gentleman here that we